walking into a place for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just sparkling, it smells amazing, and it just feels so welcoming.
Right.
I mean, wouldn't that make you way more likely to want to rent it?
Oh, for sure.
Well, that's the power of bond cleaning.
Absolutely.
And today on Home and Harmony, we are going to deep dive into exactly why it's so important,
Okay.
especially for landlords and property managers.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm Mariam Quirk.
And I'm Sam Glauert.
Now, bond cleaning, or end-of-lease cleaning,
Right.
it's basically this whole big process that tenants have to do before they give back the property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about making sure the place is in the same condition as when they first moved in.
Yeah, you got it.
So let's get into why this is so important for landlords.
Okay.
What are we really talking about here?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that it helps landlords rent their properties out faster. A clean property is just more attractive to potential tenants. You know, it shows that the landlord really cares about the place.
Right.
And that can make a huge difference. We actually talked to Archer Roberts, who owns ABC Bond Cleaning Brisbane.
Oh, cool.
And he mentioned that places that haven't been cleaned properly often take way longer to rent out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No one wants to move into a place that feels dirty or neglected.
Right.
It's kind of like when you're buying a used car.
Yeah.
You know, you're more likely to buy one that's been cleaned and looks good.
Exactly.
First impressions are everything,
They really are.
whether it's a car or a rental property.
Yeah.
So it's not just about how it looks, it's about making sure the landlord can actually rent out their property.
Yeah, for sure. But there's even more to it than that.
Okay.
Bond cleaning is also really important to make sure everything's legal and above board. Most lease agreements will have clauses about how clean a tenant needs to leave the property.
Right, so if a tenant doesn't meet those cleaning standards, then what happens?
Well, it can lead to issues with getting money back from the bond,
Okay.
and sometimes those disputes can even end up in court, which can be really costly and time-consuming.
So it's like a safety net for landlords to make sure they're protected
Exactly.
and that they can avoid any legal headaches down the line.
Yeah.
And what about the tenant's health?
Oh, that's another big one.
Yeah.
A place that hasn't been properly cleaned can have mold or allergens or even pests. And that can be a real problem for the people living there.
That's so true. It's a landlord's job to provide a safe and healthy place for their tenants,
Right.
but it's also about protecting their investment from things like mold or pest damage.
Absolutely. It's all connected. Regular deep cleaning can really help prevent those small issues from becoming huge, expensive problems down the track.
So it's not just about how much the cleaning costs up front, it's about preventing bigger costs in the future.
Exactly.
Kind of like regular car maintenance, right?
Yes,
If you keep up with oil changes and things, you're less likely to have a major breakdown.
exactly. It's all about preventative maintenance.
So even with the best preventative measures in place, there are times when you really need to get a professional in.
Correct.
So when should landlords consider hiring a professional bond cleaning service?
Right, so there are a few key times when it makes sense to bring in the pros. Like, for example, if a tenant doesn't have the time to do a thorough clean, you know, bond cleaning isn't just about wiping things down.
Right.
You've got to clean the oven, the light fixtures, carpets, all those little details that people often miss.
Yeah, they really get into every corner of the property.
And that often requires tools and knowledge that most tenants don't have.
So you need a specialist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't ask someone who's never done electrical work to rewire your house.
Right.
You'd call an electrician because they have the expertise and the tools to do it safely and correctly.
And bond cleaning is kind of the same.
Totally. It's about making sure the job gets done right and to a professional standard.
Exactly.
And a lot of these services even offer guarantees.
Oh, wow.
So if something isn't cleaned properly, they'll come back and fix it.
That's great. It really takes the pressure off the landlord.
It really does. Another time when professional cleaning is super helpful is when you have a lot of tenants coming and going, like in student accommodation or short-term rentals.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, because time is money in those situations.
Oh, right.
You want to get the property cleaned and ready for the next tenant as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you don't want it sitting empty.
Exactly. So a professional cleaning service can get in and out quickly and efficiently.
And that means the landlord can start getting rent money again sooner.
Exactly.
Now, what about those really messy or damaged properties?
Ah, yes, the ones that need a little extra love.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, sometimes you have tenants who leave behind some pretty tough stains, you know? Maybe pet odors or even damage to the walls or fixtures.
Oh, wow.
A professional bond cleaning service has the experience and the equipment to deal with those kinds of situations. They can often get the property back to looking like new.
They're like the superheroes of cleaning.
I love that analogy.
Coming in to save the day.
They really do. They have the tools and the knowledge to tackle the things that most people would be clueless about.
Okay, so we've talked about why it's good for landlords.
Yeah,
But what about the tenants?
that's a great question. And it's something we're going to explore in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, perfect. Because we want to make sure we're looking at this from every angle.
Absolutely.
But before we move on, are there any other situations where professional bond cleaning would be the best option for landlords?
You know, sometimes you come across a property where the previous tenants just didn't really know how to clean properly.
Oh, right.
Or maybe they weren't aware of what was expected of them for the bond clean.
Okay,
So in cases like that, a professional service can come in and make sure everything meets the required standards.
makes sense. It's like having a neutral party to make sure everyone's happy.
Exactly. They provide a professional, unbiased assessment and can sort out any issues that come up. So both the landlord and the new tenants can feel confident that everything's taken care of.
So we've established that professional bond cleaning can be a really valuable tool for landlords, especially in situations where time, expertise, or the level of cleaning required are major factors.
Yeah.
But what about the specifics?
Right.
What exactly do they do?
That's a great question. We'll dive into all the nitty-gritty details of professional bond cleaning in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll talk about the services they offer, the equipment they use, and all the specific areas they focus on.
Perfect. We'll get into all that after a quick break.
Sounds good.
But first, let's just recap what we've talked about so far. We've gone over why bond cleaning is so crucial for landlords. It helps with renting the property faster, legal compliance, tenant health and safety, and of course the landlord's overall return on investment.
Great.
We've also discussed when it makes sense to hire a professional, especially when time, expertise, or the level of cleaning needed are really important factors.
And don't forget, we also talked about being proactive. Things like regular inspections and having open communication with tenants can really help prevent those cleaning issues from becoming major problems down the line.
Absolutely. So stay tuned, listeners, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to be taking a closer look at the world of professional bond cleaning. We're going to uncover all the secrets of their cleaning arsenal.
Yeah.
Talk about the areas they focus on and how they can really help landlords maintain their properties to the highest standards.
And we'll also look at bond cleaning from the tenant's perspective, talking about their rights and responsibilities and giving them some tips to make sure everything goes smoothly at the end of their lease.
Perfect. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Home in Harmony. Before the break, we were digging into the importance of bond cleaning for landlords,
Yeah.
especially those times when hiring pros can really make a difference.
For sure.
We talked about how it helps get properties rented faster, provides legal protection,
Right.
and even helps create a healthier environment for tenants.
Right.
But now I'm really curious about what a professional bond cleaning service actually does.
Okay.
What are the actual tasks involved?
Well, it's really comprehensive. It goes way beyond what most tenants would normally do for a regular clean. They really cover every nook and cranny.
Okay, so like what specifically? Give me some examples.
Well, think about it this way. They're basically trying to get the property back to the exact same condition it was in before the tenant moved in.
Okay.
Obviously, minus any normal wear and tear.
Right.
So they'll deep clean the kitchen, like scrubbing the oven, stovetop range hood, even all the cupboards inside and out.
Wow.
Then the bathroom, scrubbing those tiles, the grout, shower screens, toilet.
Okay.
And then there's all the smaller details, like cleaning light fixtures, window tracks, and even those pesky skirting boards.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is.
What about carpets? Do they clean those too?
Oh, absolutely. Most professional bond cleaners will steam clean the carpets.
Okay.
They have those powerful machines that can get rid of deep dirt and stains.
That's great because carpets can really hold on to those odors and allergens.
Right.
So getting them professionally cleaned is a big win for both landlords and tenants.
Definitely.
Now, remember those tricky situations we talked about? Things like stubborn stains or damage.
Yeah.
How do they handle those?
That's where their expertise and those special cleaning solutions come into play.
Okay.
They know how to tackle those really tough jobs, like red wine spills on the carpet, Or that built-up grease in the oven.
Yeah.
Even mold in the bathroom.
Wow.
They've got the professional-grade products and techniques to get rid of stains, odors, and really get those surfaces looking their best.
It's like they're cleaning detectives,
Exactly.
solving those tough mysteries.
They really do have the experience and the tools to handle things that would leave most of us completely lost.
Okay, so you mentioned professional-grade products. What are those exactly?
Right, so professional cleaners use these industrial-strength cleaning products that are specifically made to tackle tough dirt and stains.
So not just the stuff you can get at the supermarket.
No, these products are much more concentrated and powerful.
Interesting.
But of course, they use them carefully so they don't damage anything.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And a lot of them are now using environmentally friendly products as well.
Oh, that's great.
Which is a bonus for landlords and tenants who care about the environment.
Absolutely. So it's not just about elbow grease.
No.
It's about having the right tools and techniques.
Right.
And of course, those cleaning solutions.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to another important part of professional bond cleaning. Documentation.
Documentation. What do you mean by that?
Well, good bond cleaning services will provide a detailed report of everything they've done.
Okay.
And a lot of them even take pictures.
Oh, like before and after photos.
Exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's really valuable for landlords because it proves that the cleaning's been done properly.
Right. So no arguments later.
Exactly. It prevents those disputes with tenants about the bond.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it keeps everything transparent and fair.
So it sounds like professional bond cleaning really does offer a lot of peace of mind.
Oh, absolutely. It takes all the stress and uncertainty out of that end-of-lease cleaning process.
Okay, so we've covered what they do and the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about how landlords can make this whole bond cleaning process smoother.
Okay, what do you have in mind?
Well, I think communication is key.
Right.
Landlords should give their tenants a really clear and detailed cleaning checklist right at the start of the lease.
Oh, I completely agree. That way everyone knows what's expected from the very beginning.
Exactly. And that can help prevent those disagreements down the road.
Definitely.
Because if tenants know exactly what they need to clean, they're more likely to do it properly.
Right.
And that means less chance of bond deductions and disputes.
Exactly.
So what else can landlords do to make things easier?
Well, I think doing regular inspections during the tenancy can be really helpful.
Okay.
It lets you catch any potential problems early on.
Right, like a small leak before it turns into a flood.
Exactly. It's all about being proactive.
And it gives you a chance to remind tenants about their cleaning responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. And offer some guidance if they need it.
So it's about building a good relationship with your tenants.
Exactly.
And working together to keep the property in good shape.
Absolutely.
Now here's another idea.
Okay.
Encourage tenants to get professional cleaning services throughout their tenancy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Even just a basic clean every few months can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's like getting regular maintenance on your car.
Exactly. You're less likely to have major problems later on.
Right, and it can save everyone a lot of hassle in the long run.
Okay, let's talk about the big one. Bond deductions.
Yeah,
It can be a bit of a touchy subject.
definitely.
So, how can landlords make sure they're being fair and justified when it comes to deductions?
Well, I think the most important thing is to have a really clear reason for any deduction, and you need to have proof.
So like receipts, invoices, before and after photos, things like that.
Exactly. That documentation is crucial.
Okay.
It not only backs up the landlord's claim, but it also shows the tenant that everything is transparent.
Right. No surprises.
And remember, bond deductions should only be for cleaning or repairs that go beyond normal wear and tear.
Okay, so remind me again what reasonable wear and tear means.
Sure, it's basically the normal deterioration of a property over time just from being lived in.
Okay.
So things like faded paint, slightly worn carpets, minor scuff marks, that's all considered normal.
Okay.
Tenants shouldn't be penalized for that.
Got it.
But damage caused by negligence or misuse, like big stains, broken fixtures, holes in the walls, that's a different story.
So it's about being able to tell the difference between normal wear and tear and actual damage.
Exactly.
And if a landlord is thinking about making a deduction, what should they do?
I think it's always best to talk to the tenant first.
Okay.
Explain why they're considering a deduction
Yeah.
and show them the evidence.
That makes sense. It's always better to try and work things out amicably.
Exactly. But if they can't agree, there are formal processes through tenancy tribunals.
Right, so there are ways to resolve things fairly.
Absolutely.
Now, before we move on to the tenant side of things,
Okay.
any other key takeaways for landlords when it comes to bond deductions?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that the bond is the tenant's money. It's being held in trust.
Right.
So deductions should only be made when absolutely necessary.
Okay.
And always with clear evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Being transparent, reasonable, and respectful is so important. It helps maintain a good relationship with your tenants.
Even when there are disagreements.
Exactly.
So we've talked about what professional bond cleaners do,
Yep.
the benefits they offer, how landlords can make the process easier,
Right.
and how to handle those bond deductions fairly.
Yes.
Now it's time to look at things from the tenant's point of view.
Sounds good.
What are their rights and responsibilities? What challenges do they face? And how can they make sure the end of their tenancy goes smoothly?
All great questions.
We'll get into all that after a quick break.
Okay.
So stick with us.
All right, welcome back to Home and Harmony. We've spent this episode talking all about bond cleaning.
Yep.
Looking at it from the landlord's perspective and from the professional cleaner's perspective.
Right.
But of course, there are always two sides to a lease.
For sure.
So now, let's focus on what it's like for the tenant when it comes to bond cleaning.
Absolutely. It's important to understand the challenges tenants face when they have to get that end-of-lease cleaning done.
Exactly. So for any of our listeners out there who are renting or who've rented before, what are some things they should keep in mind about bond cleaning?
Okay, so the first thing is to really understand what your lease agreement says about cleaning. Those requirements can be different for each property.
Okay.
So it's super important to read everything carefully.
Makes sense.
And if there's anything you're not sure about,
Yeah.
ask your landlord or property manager so you're both starting off on the right foot.
Exactly.
Now, are there any common things that trip tenants up when it comes to bond cleaning?
You know, one of the biggest things is understanding the difference between normal wear and tear and damage that could cost them money from their bond.
Right, we talked about that a bit from the landlord's perspective. But what can tenants actually do to avoid those gray areas?
Okay, so a really good tip is to take photos or videos of the entire property when you first move in.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That way you have a record of what the place looked like before you lived there.
So if there's a disagreement about whether a stain was already there,
Right.
you have proof.
Exactly.
It's like a time capsule of the property's condition.
Yeah, I like that. And then throughout the tenancy, it's really helpful to try and keep things clean and tidy.
Right, not like a show home, but just taking care of the place.
Yeah, exactly.
So being proactive.
Right, and if you accidentally damage anything,
Uh-oh.
let your landlord know right away.
Okay, because trying to hide it never ends well. So be honest and upfront and try and fix things together.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about the lease agreement, maintaining the property.
Yeah.
But what about that final bond clean when you're moving out?
Okay, so my biggest tip for tenants is to start early.
Okay.
Don't leave it all to the last minute.
Yeah, because bond cleaning is a big job.
It really is.
So spread it out over a few days, even a few weeks if you can.
Exactly. It's much less stressful that way.
It's like packing for a trip, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to be shoving everything in your suitcase the night before.
No way.
Take your time, break
Yeah.
it down into smaller tasks.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling overwhelmed or you just don't have time,
Yeah.
hiring a professional bond cleaner can be a great option.
And we already talked about how that can be a good thing for landlords,
Right.
but it can also be a lifesaver for tenants.
Totally. It takes the pressure off. You know the cleaning will be done to the right standard,
Yeah.
and it can help you avoid those bond disputes.
Like that ultimate peace of mind.
Exactly.
Now, if you're a tenant who wants to do the cleaning yourself,
Mm-hmm.
are there any areas you should pay extra attention to?
Yes. Some spots that people often miss are the oven.
Okay.
Make sure you clean those racks in the grill tray really well.
Got it.
Then the bathroom, scrubbing the grout, the shower screens, toilet. Those areas can be tricky.
And then the light fixtures and ceiling fans, don't forget those.
And those skirting boards, those are always a pain.
Yeah, it's all about those little details.
It really is.
And those are the areas where professional cleaners really shine.
Absolutely. They have the right tools and experience.
So whether you clean yourself or hire a professional,
Yeah.
the goal is to be thorough, pay attention to the details,
Right.
and try to get the property back to the same condition it was in when you moved in.
Minus any reasonable wear and tear.
Exactly. And if there are some areas that aren't quite perfect,
Mm-hmm.
be prepared to fix them or talk to your landlord about a fair deduction from your bond. It's all about communication and finding a solution that works for everyone.
Absolutely. And if you need help, there are resources out there.
Oh, that's good to know.
Most places have tenancy advice services. They offer free information and support to renters.
That's fantastic.
They can help you understand your rights and responsibilities.
And they can help if there's a dispute.
Exactly.
So it's like a safety net for tenants.
It really is.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today.
We have.
We've talked about bond cleaning from every angle.
From the landlord side, the cleaner side, and the tenant side.
And we've emphasized how important communication is. Taking preventative measures, being thorough, and being fair.
Right.
Hopefully, everyone listening now feels more prepared to handle the whole bond cleaning process,
I hope so.
whether they're landlords or tenants.
Right.
Thanks for joining us on Home in Harmony for this deep dive into the world of bond cleaning.
It's been a pleasure.
Remember, a clean and well-maintained property makes everyone's lives easier and more enjoyable.
It really does.
We'll see you next time.